Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, a podcast that explores Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I am the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jim Fowler, executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
And we have an important announcement about a sensitive matter to discuss with all of you. So buckle up.
All right.
No, we actually don't.
I was like, oh.
No. This is when I surprise you by quitting. I quit the podcast.
I find out about cancer on air.
Yeah.
I find out you're quitting on air.
Hey, I need to do something about that. Will you remind me to do that?
I hate you so much.
Yeah, well, I'm busy.
Too busy for cancer?
Well, yeah, little c, cancer. It's not caps lock cancer.
But nonetheless.
No, it's less than none. Much the less. Yep. Some the less. A little the less, yeah. Yeah, I will. I'm on it.
You're not doing anything.
I will, but not right now. Right now, I'm busy. But one of us is smoking, and one of us has cancer. So, what does that tell you about who really cares? You're just blowing that cancer all over me right now. See? No, it was funny. I didn't have a cigar for days, and then I was just like turning it into a competition. I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna not have cigars until Jen goes on her trip. Jen's going away on a trip with her friends, which is like Thursday. She's leaving, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just because that way I'll smell good, and that'll be a change of pace.
Yeah,
and it's fine, like no problem. And then yesterday we went out to this El Barrio. It's a tequila bar, taco joint in Geneva. It was really great. Man, best nachos I've ever had in my life. Really good. And but I ate too much, and so I felt gross. I did not feel good, but I didn't know what it was. And so like that night, I'm like feeling I'm like, I do not feel good. And she's like, well, go to bed. I'm like, I already took a nap. I can't. Like, it was just, everything was messed up. So she's like, you know what? She goes, why don't you smoke a cigar? That usually, and I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad idea.
that settles your tummy.
Maybe that's what I need. And then I'm thinking, maybe
it's withdrawal.
Maybe it's withdrawal. Like maybe like I have a little nicotine thing going on.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay, well, so I went and I got 2 cigars, and I didn't smoke them. I had them, and I felt better. All of a sudden, I was like, huh. So I'm like, okay, either it's psychological, which I doubt, or I actually just ate too much and I just felt really gross.
I'm sure that's it.
Yeah, but then I smoked those cigars.
And
so,
then,
I did anyway. I had them.
The timeline says you felt better.
I felt better before I smoked.
So you could have kept the streak going.
Absolutely. But once I had the cigars in my possession, Jimmy, seriously, come on.
I mean, yes. Yeah. I mean, when an addict has what they had, that's why you don't want to enable them.
Clearly not an addict, because I was fine, like no problems. I wasn't fine. But then they're right there.
But then you had them. You were comforted that they were near you.
Yeah, that probably, like my binky. Yeah, like my whoopee. It's like,
I have them.
Yeah, like I didn't have a little blanket growing up. My dad just let me hold a cigar, and that was my whoopee. Yeah, it felt good.
Your what?
Whoopee.
Whoopee?
It's a reference. You're too young.
All right.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is that what you guys like?
There were a number of kids who called their special security blankets whoopee, especially in the 80s. In fact, it made it into a movie. I believe maybe it was Mr. Mom, but a kid in a famous movie called his blanket a whoopee. And like I was like, wow, that's, a lot of us call our blankets that. No, I mean, not that I had one. I had a cigar. That was my whoopee. You
had a blanket, didn't you?
I probably did, but I don't remember having one. I had to have a blanket. I didn't have any friends, so
all you had was Mr. Whoopee?
Yeah, well, not Mr. No, he was young, so it'd be Master Whoopee. When you're young, you're called, your title is Master, and as an adult, you're called Mr. Didn't know that, did you?
I did, but I'm wondering why you're calling the Whoopee the Master.
Because a young person is called Master. I was called Master Joe Thorne. I used to get email that would say Master Joe Thorne. That's how old I am.
Well,
I would get like solicited email, but it would be targeted to a youth. That was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. Mm-hmm. That is weird.
Yeah. It felt racist, but it wasn't my choice.
How?
Master.
Joe.
No, it just did. I admit it felt like,
Joe.
I'm not the only one talking like that. They want to can't change the name of things because Master and all that background, can't even call Metallica's most famous song Master of Puppets anymore. It's just too much. They gotta change things up. Anyway, We're going to talk, this is probably the wrong one for us to be just riffing on weird stuff.
Yeah.
Because people are going to listen to this one. maybe don't normally listen. So I'll put a little thing, hey, skip all the banter. And then you can go, hey, what minute are we at right now? Like 4, 5, 5:16, 5:17.
Yep.
All right. So skip to the 6-minute mark. I'll do something like that. So you guys know, if you listen to us, you probably know that we're part of the Southern Baptist Convention. You're probably somewhat familiar with the Southern Baptist Convention, even if you're not a part of it yourself. And you know the SBC. It's a big denomination. It's a convention of churches, largest Protestant denomination. Blah blah blah. Well, we've got an annual convention coming up this year in Anaheim, California. Jimmy and I will be there.
Yep.
The JOFA will be representing. And
you got your tickets?
For what? There's lots of tickets to get. There's plane tickets. There's
Let's start there.
Okay, I don't know. I have to check with Deb, but probably not.
And you got your hotel room?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
okay.
so no, I'm good. I'm set. Yeah.
Yeah, where are you
So
staying?
that's the important thing. I don't know. Walking distance. Yeah. No, I'm not where you are, I'm sure.
What do you mean?
Oh, because I don't have like a moat and gondolas going around whatever resort you're in. Like I don't have that sort of a situation. Because you're bringing your wife, you're going to turn it into a whole thing.
Well, no, they'll be there for the first, before the convention
That's
starts.
what I'm saying. Yeah. You're turning it into a whole thing. So, yeah. And for me, it's just a thing. It's not a whole thing. It's a half a thing. So, anyways, it's coming up, and we have presidents that are nominated, people that are nominated to be president all the time. We're actually going to talk about that stuff next week. But one of the presidents, one of the nominees, his name is Willy Rice. Willy Rice from Florida. I've never heard anything bad about this guy. Seems like a good guy, Southern Baptist, whatever. We'll talk about the Southern Baptist pastors who are candidates next week. But this guy, some people don't like him because they want their guy to get nominated and win the election. Other people love him. But he just released a statement that has raised a bunch of questions, and people are wondering if he should step out of being a presidential nominee. But I thought we should talk about his statement, and we'll link to it in the show notes so you guys can watch it and try to make sense of what he said. And then we've got some discussion questions for us, right? Like, how do we feel about what's happening in his church? Because it is relevant to all of us, not just as Baptists. So Jimmy, he released this video statement to his church members, which, by the way, good job, right? Willie is addressing his church. I like that. He has to address the church. He's letting them know this is a bigger deal right now because I've been nominated, but because more people are watching. But this is for you guys. I like that he's talking to his people. What's the gist of it? If you had to summarize his 5-minute, 5.5 minute message, what is he telling us?
That they have a deacon at the church, or had a deacon at the church. They've since reevaluated and removed the individual from being a deacon. But someone contacted him, the prior church where this individual was at.
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Just somebody from another state contacted him about this. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a previous church. Okay. Someone contacted him saying, hey, this deacon was involved in sexual sin. Because they're very careful to talk about, like, no criminal charges, this and that. But it's still classified as abusive.
Could
still be classified as abusive. He says they were notified, but later they knew about it.
Okay, so let's make it real simple.
Yep.
So he released a statement saying that they had a deacon.
Yep.
And they just let him go.
Yep.
And the triggering moment was they got a call from another church.
Yes.
Another pastor saying, "Hey, this is something happened with this guy."
Yeah.
And then so that's the issue. That's what he's saying. And the reason this is important is because, as he talks about in this video, this is related to issues of sexual abuse, and integrity and things like that. Now, you started to get into this thing about how they knew about this when the guy came to the church. This wasn't like this phone call wasn't revelatory in any way.
Correct. I mean, I think the way he worded it was, this brother came and he did not hide his story.
Right. Yeah, it was a part of his testimony. Okay, so that's pretty clear. So this guy, who was a deacon at this church, the timeline is years ago, this guy was involved in sexual sin. It could be considered abusive. But again, there were no criminal charges, like you were saying. Like he was really clear about that. This guy, and he would not be listed as a sexual predator because of what he did. So we can draw some conclusions from that, right? Probably not dealing with minors.
Correct. Not dealing with
I would
minors.
assume that.
Talking about it being classified as potentially abusive means it could mean this person was in a position of authority.
Yeah.
Over another individual at the church, and maybe
or wherever he was. I don't know if it was school, church. Yeah. I don't know what his deal was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that seems most likely. But we don't know because we don't have all the facts. But yeah, so could be classified as abusive. In my mind, that has to mean it's not involving a minor. I mean, in my mind. Otherwise, that has to be classified.
That is
that is one of the definitions that we don't really play with. All right, so this guy, though, was later converted. He wasn't a Christian when this stuff happened. Maybe he was a professing Christian or like a superficial, nominal Christian. But Pastor Willy says, no, this guy was soundly, legit converted after this sin. Like genuine, converted, baptized, became a member of a church, life changed, marriage saved. So whatever happened before this guy was a believer. And then his marriage survived, but it was years after that he came to Calvary.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's when you said, like, he was honest about his past.
Yeah. Yeah, he was upfront. He told them, said, hey, this has been part of my past.
What do you think about that?
From the individual standpoint? I mean, I appreciate the honesty and transparency.
Yeah, totally. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not asking for anything. I would assume he's just, hey, listen, this is where I'm coming from.
I need you to know. Story. I need you to know this.
Yeah.
This is important for you to know.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm ashamed. I regret.
Yep.
But yeah, I need to be upfront with you.
So, okay. So good on that guy.
Yeah.
He's not hiding it.
No.
All right. I like that.
Yep.
Yeah. He's didn't part of a story. Jimmy and I took notes as we were listening. Now, do you remember what he said, what Pastor Willy said the response was from the leadership of the church after they learned about this guy's testimony and story? How did they, do you remember did they do anything with him?
Well, they said they made sure to not put this individual in a position of authority or in the ministries of children and students.
Oh, okay. All right. So a lot of people were online. I saw this when this was released. A lot of people were suggesting, like, well, he didn't know what happened. He didn't know the details.
Yeah,
and this guy that called shared more details. That's not established at all in the video that any more information was given.
Yeah.
In fact, I get the opposite. Like, there was no new information. It was just brought up again, brought to his attention. Clearly
because of the public nature of Willy, being nominated for the SBC presidency, felt like they had to talk about this openly and directly and transparent because of that.
Oh, yeah. I think it's good. And I actually, being transparent and talking about stuff that's going on, I'm totally fine with that. Like, you say, hey, here's what happened. Here's why we did what we did. I'm a fan of that. Like, if it's going to help, like, yes, let's put it out there. So yeah, this guy was not allowed to serve with students or children. Well, that means that they had a concern, a real concern at some level. Maybe not that he would do something wrong, but that at the very least it is inappropriate for him to be in that context.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Again, we don't know all the details, but they made a judgment call. This guy should not be serving in these areas. Okay. And that's their responsibility and their prerogative. They got to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Don't fault them for that. But then years later, again, so this is all taking place years at a time. None of this is rushed. Also, good. That, by the way, that's how it's supposed to be. Things are supposed to take time for everybody. He proved himself to be a godly man, and they appointed him as deacon, and he's functioned in the role as deacon without incident. It's been great. All things are good. But then they get this phone call.
Yeah.
And
now they feel, well, we need to reevaluate our process in light of
biblical information. In light of theological truth.
In light of cultural, the way culture has shifted.
Oh, the kitchen got hot.
The kitchen
You got to open some windows.
Yeah, exactly.
And throw some deacons out.
Oh, wow.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, and listen, honestly, sometimes we do have to reevaluate what we believe and what we do. And sometimes the impetus, the catalyst to get us to rethink things isn't a theological truth as much as it is something circumstantial. And you go, oh, wait a minute, we do need to rethink this. And then you rethink it biblically, which is fine. God uses a whole variety of means to prompt us to get better and to do better. So we're really not making fun of this guy or calling him out because a phone call led for him to reevaluate. A phone call from somebody, even if somebody has bad motives, even if somebody's just making fun of you or just calling you out, sometimes that is still a good opportunity for you to go, hey, you know what? Let me rethink this.
Yeah,
check it out.
Yeah, let's take a look at it again.
Okay, so what he said was something like we're evaluating how we're doing, how we're operating.
We're looking to strengthen our nominating process. So more than just kind of the cookie cutter sheet of paper, but more like delving deeper into some of these questions and how it affects those around us, offering more training. Because they want to listen, learn, and lead.
Oh yeah, there you go. He had to alliterate. Yeah, listen, learn, and lead. So you don't lose another deacon or the SBC presidency.
So you don't lose a leader.
Right. Oh, there you go. And so their decision was to what? What did they do?
Ask him to stop. They removed him as a deacon.
He's no longer a deacon. Okay. So again, this is not our church. So in that sense, it is not our business. That's their business. But it's public and people are talking about it. And it brings up issues for us all to wrestle with in our churches. I mean, one of the things that that Pastor Willy said was, we want to take seriously the issue of sexual abuse.
Yes.
And especially in the SBC, like we're dealing with that right now. So we want to take that seriously. We want to be above reproach.
Yep.
We want to be helpful, not hurtful. All of that's good. Like, and that's great. And I believe him when he says that, right? I have no reason to not believe him. So in light of all of that, they pull the deacon. Now, if you go online and you just start searching Willy Rice, it's all about this. People might have been talking about pros and cons for him as president, but but
now it's
like, oh, this is what happened. So a lot of people that I've seen on Twitter as of this recording, what is it, Saturday?
Yep.
The
Saturday morning,
April 2nd, Dateline. A lot of people are saying he needs to step down and not be a nominee for the SBC because, obviously this is a mess. And a lot of people are saying he ordained, I think some of the concerns are, this guy ordained somebody as a deacon who has a past that has disqualified him from serving. And he knew that past and he ordained him anyways. So because he did that, he should be gone. Or he's not sensitive enough to the sexual abuse issue, and that's such a hot button issue right now. We need a pastor that is clean on that issue, and he's not clean, so we can't let him function as the SBC pres. Then, of course, there are people that just don't want him as pres because they want their guy to be pres, and so they're like, okay, great, yeah,
you got to go.
Yeah, bye.
I'm riled up. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Rabble.
Is that the Hamburglar?
Rabble. I can't do it.
What does the Hamburglar say? Anyway, so I was, this was released and it raised, I think it raises some good questions. Is a person's sins that they committed before their conversion potentially disqualifying for them to serve as an ordained elder or deacon? Where do we go in Scripture to establish what the qualifications are? And are any of those qualifications anywhere suggesting that there are certain sins that you could have committed in your past before your conversion that would disqualify you from leading?
Well, I think we want to go to, Timothy, yeah? Mm-hmm. When we're talking about the qualifications for for elders.
Yeah, so you got 1 Timothy 3 and Titus, right? Mm-hmm. So, and they're, largely the same. So you go there and it says what?
Must be this is for office of overseer, right?
Mm-hmm. Overseer, elder, pastor for us. We all believe that's all the same.
Above reproach, husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. Manage his own household well, with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church? He must not be a recent convert, or he may become puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must be well thought of by outsiders so that he may not fall into disgrace, into a snare of the devil.
Boom.
Boom.
All right. So that's really the list that most people go to.
Yeah.
And of course, there are other passages that speak to what pastors ought to be doing and whatnot. But in terms of like, are you qualified or not? This really gets down to the essentials. Now, what a lot of people are saying is this guy is no longer above reproach. He's not above reproach because of how he handled this particular situation. So this, well, I guess I just conflated two things. They think that this guy shouldn't be the SBC president because he's not above reproach.
Correct.
But when it comes to overseers, we see, an overseer must be above reproach to be an elder. So let's just talk about that in general. Because when we're talking about deacons, the list is very, very similar. It does not use the phrase above reproach. Mm-hmm. It just says dignified. You must be dignified, not double-tongued, not addicted to much wine, not greedy for dishonest gain, holding the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. They must be tested. There you go. They must, as deacons, if they prove themselves blameless. So there you go. There's the idea of above reproach. And then it talks about their wives or lady deacons or however you want to translate that. Deacons, husband of one wife, manage their household well. So very, very, very similar. Okay. So in these lists, where would somebody go to say, like, okay, well, this person is disqualified from serving as a deacon or an elder because of their past sins? What would they appeal to?
I think the above reproach.
It's the only thing that would work, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's general enough for people to use for a lot of different things.
Oh, yes.
It's what's the verse? Where it says, avoid the appearance of evil.
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, does that mean, avoid what might look like evil to somebody, even if it's not? That's not what it means. Mm-hmm, avoid the manifestation of evil in any form. Okay. Now, what a lot of people would say is, when a lot of scholars would argue that when you're looking at Timothy here, it says an overseer, for example, must be above reproach. That is then explained in the following verses. Like, what does it mean to be above reproach? Oh, well, husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled. So whether that is it, or if it's just a general statement like, well, he must not have condemning sins that are true about him, that would disqualify him. So it sort of begs the question, like, you still have to answer, like, well, what are those sins that would disqualify you?
Yeah.
Okay, so in your mind, are there sins that someone could commit before their conversion that would disqualify them biblically from serving as an elder or a deacon? And I'm wording that carefully.
I know. That's why I'm
not saying, want me to tell you what I'm not asking?
There you go, please.
I'm not asking, are there sins that someone would commit that would lead you to not ordain them as an elder or a pastor? I'm not asking that. I'm asking, are there sins that someone could have committed before their conversion that would biblically disqualify them from serving?
I can't think of one.
Because your mind is too clean and your heart is too pure. You can't imagine sins. Is that why?
No.
Because you're so much better than everybody else.
No, because you look at Paul committing murder, and yet he's qualified.
Yeah. There's a New Testament context reference for it that I think is really clear. I'm responsible for like the murder of people.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm with you. I don't see a case to be made that you are biblically disqualified from serving if you committed certain sins in your non-Christian past. And we're talking about that not because, well, if you committed any particular sins as a Christian, that automatically disqualifies you. It may, but I don't know, or as a pastor. And I think that if we're talking about somebody that commits a particular sin as a pastor, I think that could pretty clearly disqualify you. I think the Scripture does establish that. But But before your conversion, before you knew the Lord, that is somewhat unique or somewhat different. And I'm with you. I can't think of a sin that would biblically necessitate they are unqualified. I think there are sins that we would go, whew.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of those sins. I'm like,
I'm responsible. We're as elders are responsible for this particular church, and as a congregation, we're responsible. And so, do we have a biblical reason for saying something? You can have a biblical reason for saying, like, I don't think this person should serve as an elder or a deacon, and that biblical reason is, maybe the health and the unity of the church or the safety of the sheep or whatever. Those are biblical reasons. While they may not be biblically disqualified, you're not forced to ordain anybody in particular.
Correct.
So you have the freedom to determine who you're going to ordain.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what about this though? Like for example, with lots of Baptists, I mean, probably the vast majority of Baptists would never ordain somebody to deacon or elder if they had been divorced. Forget what the reason was. If they've been divorced and are, no, they're not going to serve. And we do not operate that way at Redeemer because we think there are justifiable reasons for divorce. First of all, you can have a divorce that is done in righteousness and can be biblical. But also then we're looking at, people's past and what happens before they're converted and all that comes into play. So this guy, they decided to let this guy go as a deacon, even though he has been an exemplary member and a fantastic deacon by all accounts that we've heard.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about this guy being let go from his position in light of the very limited information that we do have on the situation? How do you feel about it? And if you don't want to answer that, that's fine, because it's not our church.
Yeah. I think it's because of the limited nature of what actually happened. I'm hesitant, right? Because it sounds like it was not a minor, right? It wasn't someone underage.
I think that's a fair deduction for us to make.
Yeah. We don't know the exact nature of it. It was before conversion. So with that, I'm like, what's the then what is the reasoning behind removing the individual? Then on the cynic in me gets to, someone's running for president. And to a degree, I can actually appreciate, understand that whoever's going to be the SBC president or as pastors leading our churches, we want to create an environment that people know that they are safe, valued, and cared for, and protected in a lot of ways.
Right.
Again, not knowing all the details, it's hard for me to put my finger on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking okay, listen, let's say that so in this case, Pastor Willy and his staff, they all say, like, listen, this has been brought back up, and they come to the conclusion we haven't been good enough advocates for those that have suffered sexual abuse, right?
But see, I don't understand how they came to that conclusion. How do you say we've not been good enough advocates? Where's the proof of that? That's what I'm trying to get at, is like, the individual didn't do anything within your church.
No, I don't think he's even talking about like what that individual did. He's talking about their management, like what they have or haven't done.
Okay, well, what they did do was they knew about it up front.
Church knew about it.
Apparently. It was part of the testimony. It was transparent. They didn't allow the individual around children and youth, like as far as in those ministries. They evaluated the person after a number of years.
Yeah.
So what part of the mismanaging?
I don't see anything that he said that they did wrong.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Is like it's weird to say that then, like, so, not you saying that, for them to say.
No, yeah. So I think when he says that,
to me it sounds like placating.
It could be. It could be. I think on the one, so we can look at it in two ways, right? So to give him all the benefit of the doubt, right, and to be as charitable as possible. A man who has authority over someone else, especially when they're younger, but a man who has authority over somebody else, and maybe it's a teacher-student relationship or whatever, and then manipulates that person. They have a sexual relationship. That is sexual abuse. That
is abusive. Yes.
Yeah. And so we are generally not so sensitive about that. I mean, we're like, you're adults. What are you going to do? You made the decision.
You're consenting.
And we don't recognize the power dynamics and like how people, kind of get roped in.
Yep.
So maybe they're noticing like they haven't been, as sensitive to some of that as they could have been. But no, in my estimation, from what I've heard, I don't think they've done anything wrong here.
Yeah. And
because it's not like this guy did this as far as I can tell, he didn't do this as a deacon or as a leader at a church. So yeah, he sinned. It was before he was even converted. Like, what are we supposed to do with that? Mm-hmm. I mean, if we were talking about the sins that I did before I was converted, I'll tell you right now, there is no shot that I would ever serve in any capacity as a leader in a church. There's no way. And it's not just because I'd still be in prison. I mean, it's like I did horrible things. I did bad things, like things that are like, oh, I like my gosh.
A little throwaway, still be in prison.
Well, probably by now I'd be, to be honest, like, let's be fair. So it's like, I don't like that. And like, I don't think that's they did this before the conversion. I just think we got to be much more careful making that argument. He did this. Yeah, but he did this before he knew the Lord. He did this, and now a great work has been done. So when I think about what I've heard, like, I don't have enough information to say that was a right decision. And I don't have enough information to say that was the wrong decision, but I don't like what I hear, is what I can say. It just doesn't sit right with me. And again, I'm an outsider. I can't go to this guy and say, hey, you're my pastor. Break this down for me.
Yeah.
But I think it is weird. But I do think we need to be able to talk about these things as churches. We should be transparent. I mean, I'd really like to know how the church is responding to this. And you also have to take into consideration that there are going to be people who have been victims of sexual abuse. And so they are going to be more sensitive to it. That doesn't mean they're overly sensitive people. They're more sensitive to it. We tend to be less sensitive to it. So like they're going to be, more like a voice for advocacy. They're going to maybe want stronger guidelines in place. But so he's got to have to deal with all of that. So I like that they're talking about it again. But the decision seems to be very much tied, in my estimation, to the SBC. So, got any takeaways? Any takeaways you're thinking about this? You're looking at what's happened, and you're like, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. What do you got?
For me, I think I'm really just trying to think through. It's really important to, even as he was talking about, being transparent throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
Right? We all need to be able to be open, honest, and really, I think, charitable in the sense of giving people an opportunity to share what they're thinking without really blasting them because they say a certain word that maybe because it's not the viewpoint that you have right away.
Yeah. I think transparency is a big one. Be ruthlessly biblical, but you got to be wise. Put your church first, and pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on. Again, I don't have there's no hidden message here or agenda from us about this guy, Pastor Willy. Just like we need to do a better job of paying attention, and I think we need to continue to refine the practical outworkings of our ecclesiology so that they are biblical, sane, rational, but biblical. That's the main thing. All right, Jimmy.
Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts. You can follow us online on Instagram and Twitter at Doc and Diva or on Facebook /Doctrine and Devotion. You can head to the website, drdevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast or hit the store, jofostore.com, and grab some gear. We got that fresh pot every Monday and Thursday. We got blog posts and video content over at the website. And we got that all-access exclusive content, Banter Truth on Tuesdays, Weekday Wisdom Monday through Friday. Head on over at drdevotion.com /all-access to register today. Later.